Hi, today's world is more about inspiring teams, driving them into results, and navigating success. Welcome to C-Suite Strategies Elevate Every Move and Scale Beyond. Our topic of discussion today is resilient leadership and how to inspire teams, drive results, and navigate crisis. Your go-to podcast on strategy and growth. I'm your host Prem Kumar AS today, and we are exploring how teams can be made, driven, and navigate with complexities around the uh, industries and the projects. A special welcome to all tuned to Power of Knowing Forum's weekly podcast series. And we are on the episode 237 on LinkedIn Live. We are honored to have Sudhir Pathak, a resilient expert, keynote speaker, wayfinder, helping leaders to build resilient mindset and overcome setbacks. Please, please, have we are pleased to have him on the podcast. Without further ado, let's welcome our esteemed speaker onto the event and let's dive into the topic. Hi Sudhirji,
Hello,
welcome to our
Prem.
podcast.
Thank
Welcome
you
to
very
our
much.
podcast.
Thank you
Sir,
very
a
much.
small intro about yourself would help us and the audience to understand you better before we dive into the topic, sir.
Sure, Prem. As you mentioned and rightly mentioned, I am a resiliency expert, and I call it with a reason because I am someone who has seen the challenges from very near, setbacks and the failures all, and I built a skill around it, and and I learned it how to overcome that. So I was just 25 years old, Prem, when I got diagnosed with kidney failure. And that was the point which basically pushed me back and, put me in a state of, I'll say, discouragement, if not the depression. When I saw people leaving me, my loved ones leaving me, finances depleting, and, somehow surviving in the job. It was absolute chaos at that time. But then one single event triggered me to think different way, triggered me to change my mindset, and then I realized how a mindset shift can bring wonders in the life. And then I learned how to build resilience in life. I learned this was not the something which I was carrying along. I learned that there are tricks, there are mechanisms, there are sciences behind that, and we all can enable ourselves. So that's how my journey started, Prem. And only thing which I carry myself along all the time is the purpose, and I feel that that's one thing. Once it is wrapped around your life or your goals or whatever you want to call it, it brings a lot of energy. And I'm very proud to say that once I overcome all the failures which I just mentioned to you, I am now driven by a couple of purposes. One is that how I can teach resilience, how I can build resilient leaders, resilient organizations, or raise resilient kids as well. And the number two is uh, how I can feed more kids. So I'm running an NGO back in Pune where we are taking care of some 450 kids and we are feeding them, and they are just coming out of a movie theater today as we are talking. So we took them for movie. So it's a wonderful thing. But that's what in totality I am. I'm also in the technology sector, Prem, where I'm a DevSecOps and a generative AI evangelist and an expert on that. So I work towards the GenAI as well. So that's what I am, Prem.
Thank you for that, sir. It was a lengthy pointer and a health challenge making you look at the life in a different perspective is an interesting pointer that you made. Now you led teams through volatile times. What is one mind shift that every leader must adopt in a crisis to avoid panic and inspire action?
Uh, Prem, I feel volatility is not bad. I feel pretty much like a stock market, Prem. Whenever the volatility comes, it gives you an opportunity to earn as well, right? It gives you an opportunity to get more. So I feel volatility is definitely not the bad. It's not the bad things, but definitely. once the crisis basically comes in, you have to you have to bring a mindset shift that you rightly asked in your question. And that mindset shift is, are you ready to own the things or are you ready to run away? See, you think about any crisis in the life. The crisis comes, the first, I think, the weaker people or the weaker leaders will try to run away from the situation. That's the tendency of crisis. Nobody will take the responsibility, nobody will own it. And that's where I feel it's very important that being a leader, you should own that situation, you should own that crisis to take it to the next level. And trust me, as a leader, once you will start owning it, it will start getting floated down to your respective teams as well. It's a culture thing, Prem. So once a leader shows that courage, shows that approachability, adaptability, it starts floating down to the respective team members as well. So I feel volatility is not bad. And I also feel that one mindset shift, which I carry very strongly within my head, is the ownership. You own the things, a responsibility factor comes in. The moment responsibility comes in, your shoulders get broadened. You feel that you have to complete it no matter what. The courage comes in, the strength comes in. You will get all the traits start coming to you, and you will be able to sail it through. And that's my way of leading the things, Prem.
Wonderful, sir. I think what you said was very, very important because most of the time ownership lies in getting things done, right? And that's where most of the time people don't take ownership and they see. And I was reading somewhere where we said when there is a success, they many people want to own it, but when there is a failure, most of them don't want to take
Yeah.
it. Now, how do we look at
Hmm.
balancing empathy and urgency when leading under pressure, especially the high stake environments that we talk about, right? So it is more to look at pressure at the time, not losing the cool at the team, is what we wanted to understand from you, Sudhiji.
Right. So, Prem, see, wherever we are working upon, be it a crisis, no crisis, very ideal situation, or very challenging situation, one thing which will never change are the humans. So, you cannot let the empathy go, whether it's a challenging situation or a crisis or a chaos or whatever you want to call it. So, for me, even if it's an urgent situation, it's a crisis situation, it's ultimately the people, it's ultimately the team who are going to deliver it. You cannot do it all alone. You cannot make it happen saying, pull myself out and I'll be able to do it alone. Never happen. Never happens, will never happen as well. So, okay, let me just give you an example, Prem, that how, in one of my work experiences, how did I cater to this thing, right? So I still remember, and this is like almost 15 years back when I was, not as accomplished a leader, which I call myself now. So there was a situation, and there was this guy in my team. I'll, not put his name, or rather change it as well. So there was this guy in the team. He was very unique. He was unique as in he carried a lot of technical expertise. He was very good, but at the same moment of time, he was carrying it as well. That if I am not there, there was a bit of arrogance as well. So there was a bit of thing that if I am not there, nothing will happen as well. So he was the kind of a person who was necessary in a team, but then on a behavior aspect, he was not needed as well. So it was a very tricky situation. And then one particular we were preparing for our production, and when we go for production, it gets very critical with respect to the timings and all. You have to deliver it on time. So we're getting ready for the release, and this guy's son fell ill. He got infected with dengue, and then and he was required in that release thing. But I asked him to go, although he was a bit reluctant. But I asked him to go, and I said, we will cover you up and we'll manage it our way. I mean, it's okay. It's a high pressure thing. The client is expecting us to get this delivered on Friday, but you just take care of your personal things first, and health comes primary. So I asked him to go and stay at home or in a hospital till the time things gets better. And not only that, we called him as a team. We called him back to give the status and ask his personal statuses as well. And we ultimately delivered it successfully. And then I personally visited hospital as well post the release, and then understood all the situation and offered help, etc. what exactly did it do? It's not that I did a very great job or nobody did it in the before. What I mean to say is, when you put human first, it brings the results in return. This guy who was bad in behavior totally changed his behavior towards the team and the project, right? He became a kind of a person who became a go-to. You can always reach out to him and he was ready to assist. So that was a kind of a transformation which you can bring in if you keep a balance between empathy and even the crisis or the pressure situation frame.
No, I take that point completely, sir, because when you look at team members being managed properly, or when you value their own commitments as well, the team will stand for you also when you need them to be available for you. What is one personal compass during decision making in uncertain times that you use, and how do you reset when everything feels uncertain again? So
Uh, Prem, if you will ask me in person, I actually love uncertainties. The reason being, because when things are uncertain, there is a prospect to make things better, right? So again, I'll what I mean to say is, we all are looking for certainty in our life, but the growth, right? If I tell you that it's certain that you will be doing exceptionally well in your career, I mean, you will stop learning. You will actually stop learning at that point. If I will be very certain, and you have seen it in families where there is a certainty that you will always be getting into a comfort zone. There will never be a shortage of comfort. People will stop growing. So that way, Prem, uncertainty is not bad. And as I say that, it's also important that please try to understand that whenever we are uncertain, and I have cascaded this to my team as well, being a resilient leader, that when the uncertainty will come, it will definitely come with challenges, right? It will never be a straight, and challenges will give you the best opportunity to grow. And if you if, if I tell you one thing, I don't know whether you believe it or not, but I am a firm believer on this: the biggest source of opportunities comes from challenges, if we grab it, right? If we change our perspective. So I feel uncertainties are not bad. And as a leader, I always carry this mindset within me, and I always get it floated down to my team as well. That whenever the uncertainty comes in, don't run away, because that's the time when you will be growing the most, you will be learning the most, your skills will be getting developed, and you will possibly getting more cohesive as a team. Then you will be able to understand each other's best. You will be able to take each other's help, and will be able to grow the team. So that's the way I take uncertainty, Prem.
so very valid points there, sir. Because as you rightly said, when we are in a situation where we are hardbound and we see challenges, that is when we think for opportunities. Otherwise, everything chalta hai. So it happens and it
Yeah.
goes on, right? Things keep moving and we think if this is not the way, the other way it will work out, and we keep moving around. But when uncertainty
Yes.
happens, you think about finding a solution and putting an end to it. That's where I think most of the important points. You have worked in talent intensive sectors. What does resilient leadership look like in a talent retention and team morale today? Because uh, I would say team morale is going down and down, is what I see with the current trend that is happening, because everybody wants quick results, everybody wants them to deliver and stuff like that. So, looking at that piece, how do you take this pointer, sir?
Prem, with due respect, I'll change this word talent to skilled. Is that? I hope that's
Yeah, that's
okay,
great.
right? And I'll tell you why. Because sometimes we are born with that talent, right? We say that also is a very talented person, but skill is something which is required to be developed, right? Skill is not something which is inbuilt or sitting. You have to practice it to make it happen. But to come to your question, Prem, that resilience leadership for the talent and the morale boost up and all. Prem, in my 20 years of experience, I have seen people's morale getting down, not just because they are not paid sufficient. People's morale gets down when they are not respected for what they have done. People's morale go down when they fail, and we put more pressure on that failure rather than helping them to overcome that failure or improve on top of that. People's morale do not go down when let's say uh, if the person do not get promotion. I mean, it does, but that's not the core factor. The core factor is I have personally worked with the people and the managers where I did not get promoted for after 5 years of working, but I was still able to give my heart and soul and blood and sweat and everything to my boss because he was showing me respect, empathy, giving me ample opportunity to grow. And so for a resilient leader, Prem, it's very important that you should go hand in hand with empathy and you should look for the human first factor. And I'm really sorry to say that's something which is getting depleted every now and then, that people are not thinking human as humans, especially with these all AI things coming up in the thing. Being an AI expert, I can still say that, especially when the AI things coming up, they're more machine oriented. They think that everything is replaceable. But please understand, humans are not replaceable. It's humans who are. AI will only behave the way you will treat the large language models, train them, pre-train them, model them, sorry, fine-tune them to act. They are not going to get better than your empathetic skills, than your human oriented skills. So, to bring up or to keep up the morale of a team or an individual in the team frame, it's very important that we should encourage them to grow. And growth does not always mean money or a promotion. We should encourage them to grow in their mindsets, in their leadership skills. When the crisis comes, put some trust on those people to take you to the next level or to sail you through. Right. So these are different ways to for a resilient leader to bring up the morale and take the talent or the skill to the next level, Frame.
So very important pointers there, because you made an important point where you said AI is not going to replace things, right? But people think that AI can automate everything and they don't need people at all. They are talking about faceless YouTube channels. They are talking about faceless customer centric approaches. They are talking about automatic problem solving when it comes to some of the ticketing systems and stuff. But what they are trying to do is they want to look at speed, but the whole perspective that is getting, or narrative that is getting built, is that AI is replacing humans. Definitely, I will not take that point. As you rightly said, AI is an enabler where you are asking the right questions to get the right answers, and still you have to validate the answers that it is giving, because it is going and fetching data that is put on a website. And if you search for creating a bomb, it will give you details of creating a bomb.
Yeah,
But do you want to create a bomb? That's the ethical thing that you have to take as a decision. Now there is pointers that AI is bringing in reference to the search that we used to do in Google, right? And earlier, what we used to do in
yeah,
Google is to search. You get hundreds of sites, and you will have to look at which site to look at for what. Now, AI is giving you a consolidation of reference with all these sites and giving you an answer. Again, still the reference still stays with you, and the decision still stays with you. How do you look at coach
yeah,
your mid-level managers to build resilience without losing the human connect with their teams? Because we spoke about, right, again, AI and all this stuff. What is your take on it, Sudhir?
yeah. So, Prem, for my mid-level managers, I take them to training as well. What I always teach them is a three-piece framework, and it is applicable everywhere. It's not that it's only applicable to the mid managers. It is applicable to a normal human being who is running a shop or who is doing a normal job. What I mean to say is, with those three phases, one is passion, right? And when I say passion, it does not necessarily mean that you have to have a passion. You are carrying it right from your birth or since the time you start going to school. It can be built. It can be built out of the interest, right? You can have plenty of interest, and out of those interests, something which basically, empowers you, excels you to work, is something which you can be passionate about. So you, for something to be passionate about, you should always have that interest. If you are not interested on something, you cannot be passionate. It's as simple as that. So that's one P. Another is practice. So, if you are passionate about something, and if you are not practicing that thing, and be it like building a skill like of resilience itself, or be it like, talking, speaking, writing AI codes, prompt engineering, or be it anything, right? You might be very passionate about all those things, but if you're not practicing towards that, it is not going to help you to take it to the level of making it a skill. So you might be talented enough, but you still have to practice to bring that talent and make it to a skill, right? Sachin Tendulkar was very talented, but he practiced enough to make it a skill, that kind of a square drive which he can make, nobody else can make possibly, right? So that's what I mean to say. So it's a practice. And the last and the very important thing is purpose, Prem. When you wrap around your passions and the practices or the talents or the skills around a purpose, it gives you a different meaning. So when you have a purpose in life, you, no matter what situation emerges, no matter what happens, if you have a purpose very clear in your head, the zeal will always be there. You're talking about those crises, chaos, chaotic situations, emergencies, urgencies, humanity of the site, that all will be taken care of once you have the purpose very clear in your head. So passion, practice, and then the purpose amalgamated together can take you to level. So I think for me, these are my cores for the resilience frame. And if I have to teach resilience, or if I have to build resilience, or if I have to train people to build resilience, I'll ask them to get trained on all those things, three things. And these are learnable skills again. Passion can be built, practice can be done, and then again, purpose is something you have to find on your own out of all this.
You're right on that, Sudhir. Now, again, coming into the next pointer that I would like to, we spoke about in brief, but how is AI and automation looking at? Where does the human centric leadership fit in, especially during the change or the crisis? Because the world is getting filled with the kind of solutions that we're talking about, AI and automation, quicker turnaround times and stuff like that. So, how do you look at this pointer where human centric leadership fit, especially during change and crisis?
Right. So Prem, I will just start with one thing. If I, because people are saying AI is coming, it is replacing me, it is replacing this, it is replacing that. Okay, to a certain extent, okay. um, you know because it is still replacing agents and all, but there are upgraded things also coming in. But I just want to start with this frame. If i if i fall sick, right, the touch which my mother gives to me, and the way it heals me, and the way she takes care of me, I am absolutely sure none of the robots can ever do that thing, right? So the point which I am trying to bring on is, the human centricity is not going anywhere. It's analytical things which a AI model is doing, and that too once we are training that model against the data set which is either present in the world wide web, or even if it's a domain specific data which you are teaching or training a model on, he will always be reflecting on that. He will, or he or she, whatever you want to call it, a robot, but uh, it will always come in a way where it will show you biases, it will show you hallucination. You'll have to take care of its security aspect of it. What is right? Those are some things which humans are more capable to handle, even if you are not training them. If somebody is coming up to me and saying, you give me your account details and all the registered mobile numbers and all those things, I do not need a training for that to tell them, no, 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 I don't need it. Why should I give you my bank details? So in totality, what I'm trying to say, see, Prem, AI is essential with the way it is going on. I'm not at all denying that fact, and we have to embrace the technological change as well. But being a leader, we also have to bring adaptability to our teams, right? We should be more focused to help each other. And very important thing, Prem, which people forget is to upskill ourselves, right? To know more. We are at the very shallow ground right now with respect to the artificial intelligence. Everyone wants to have it, but there are very less people who actually knows how does it works. And there is a chaos, Prem. People say it's taking my job, it's taking my job, it's taking my job. It is not taking your job, it is just asking you to upskill yourself so that it can take the basic level of analytical agentic kind of a jobs, which anyways is not possibly not helping you to grow. So that's my take on AI, Prem.
Very truly said on those pointers. I think what we are talking is again and again we are saying AI is an enabler. It's not going to
Yeah.
take away your jobs. And the difference that we should look also is AI is giving you the right kind of pointers that still needs human validation. Again, we are repeating that pointer again and again here. Human in the loop is always required when we have any kind of an AI being built. Otherwise, it is just going to be uh, a human talking to a human, AI talking to a
Yeah.
AI, right? No, I was attending a fintech seminar yesterday, and we
Hmm.
were talking about banking industry, looking at AI automation stuff, where how banking can collaborate in loan management and other stuff. So, what was the pointer that they were talking is there could be a situation where today we know we are leveraging AI. Tomorrow you will be talking to a bot which is the other side, and your bot will be talking from your side,
Ah,
and two bots talking, and that can be the next step. But the talk of a bot will always look at the data that is having in it.
yes, yes,
If you are
absolutely.
feeding data to a limit that is going to be required, and post which a human intervention or a human loop is required, then you don't have a challenge. Now, you want to keep a AI to learn everything and you don't want to be in that loop, then there is a challenge.
Yeah. and
So,
and Prem, also, just sorry to cut you short, I
yeah,
mean, just a point, right? It will only be responding to what kind of a things you are treating him or her on, right?
yeah.
You put a wrong prompt, you train him with the wrong prompt. We call it in a technological term the prompt injection. You put a wrong prompt and you train the model on that prompt, it will totally change the way it will communicate. It will start giving you all the false responses and possibly unethical responses as well, Prem.
Sir, your yesterday's discussion was more to look at how, see, then one pointer which Mr. Aman Narula from a financial organization mentioned was AI can be a boon and a landmine, both,
Mhm.
right? So
Yeah.
it was a very important point which I understood is how you tune, how you build. If you are looking at ethical hacking is an example where they are looking at loops and trying to penetrate, right, and see where are the loopholes. Those guys also use AI tools. It's not that they don't use
Yeah.
AI tools. Now, with
Yeah.
you
True.
being having AI tools to defend, they are trying to do AI tools to penetrate. So the technology is getting advanced at the both are sides, but end of the day, the design is done by the human in the loop person only. So still we have that human advantage that we are not handing over everything like what you said some time back, where everything you're handing over and everything is with AI. That's not the case, right?
Yes.
What are some of the silent signals that team is losing resilience, and how should the leaders respond to it before they are too late? Because when once we push too much of things, they people start or stop talking, then the silence takes over and we don't hear from them, and the performers keep silent because they are not heard about. So what is your take on it, Sudhir?
So, Prem, silent, I'll say, messages or observations when being a resilient leader, which you can see, is when people stop coming or stop gelling together to innovate. They stop ideation kind of a things. They are they are on their own. They are still delivering, but they have no interest, right? So you are still seeing that the results are coming. I gave a task, the task was supposed to complete, and it got completed, but did it get complete with that same zeal and enthusiasm? Are they collaborating enough? Are they learning enough? And also, sometimes totally opposite, Train. You know, there are 10 number of tasks, and a person X knows that I can do, one, number five, number seven, but he's only assigned one and five. And he knows how to complete number seven, but he will say, or he thinks, it is not my job to complete, right? So those are the signals wherein we can say that this is not falling in that resilient leadership. This is something people are not showing that kind of a resilience to get the project successful or to the organization successful. And then how to mitigate, right? I think the first and the foremost thing which I'm telling right from the beginning is the empathy or the human centric approach. You have to think your team members. See, everyone wants performer, but performers are required to be built and created. Nobody come as a performer, right? So if somebody is not performing, you have to make them performer, and that's where the team role comes very important. So one is definitely you bring that cohesion, as a human centric approach. And two, Prem, very important, being a leader, you should stand up and show it first, demonstrate it first, before expecting people to do it in return or learn and then do. What I mean to say by this is, a person is possibly suffering from its own personal issues and not able to perform professionally, but he will never be able to show up if you will show that side in the team, that it's open to come up with your vulnerabilities and show it off. I mean, if I as a leader cannot come in and do this, open up my vulnerabilities and show it off, saying, okay, this is what I'm not capable of, and this is where I suffered in the past, I failed in the past. If I will not open up and say, is this courage or this resilience will never be developed amongst the teams as well. So these are, I'll say, very easy, very straightforward ways to build the resilience in your team, Prem. But the irony is, they are easy, they are doable. But the irony is, these are the few things which are very easily gets missed, and nobody notices on that. You were asking, right? Once we are very clear on the milestones or the deliverables, we are so focused on deliverables, we leave humans behind. I think those are few things which we have to take care of it very urgently, especially in this kind of AI world, Frame.
I completely agree on what you are saying, Sudhiji. Is people become silent because they don't get heard. That's the first thing.
Yeah.
And every time they put up a solution or a thought process, we either suppress them or we don't look at their viewpoint. Now, coming into that, how can CEOs make time to be visible, accessible, and human during times when stakeholders demand non-stop results? Because everybody wants results on as on yesterday, right?
Yeah. And CEOs are wonderful people, Prem. Let me tell you, they are the busiest people in the earth. I have seen them, and they are under tremendous amount of pressure as well, Prem, because they have to, as you rightly mentioned, they have to take care of their stakeholders. They have their own set of deliverables. They have their own set of KPIs. They have own set of milestones. But I think it's at the same time, Prem, it's CEOs. I think it's CEOs' responsibility area itself, where they should make themselves visible and available to their people. And one of some of the very common ways which I have seen people or other CEOs making themselves available is, I think one of the very first is running these monthly town halls, be it a physical or be it a virtual, but making themselves available. Even at times, Prem, I have seen it's one way. It's a town hall. It's a talk which is people are, or kind of a thing where it's getting broadcasted. People are just listening, but it's still important that people should be able to listen to how CEO thinks, what are his vision plans of his for the next month. So I think this town hall or the virtual meets are one way. Another way is very easy way these days is those dedicated channels wherein people can put questions to CEO, and those can be answered in these broadcasting messages, broadcasting mechanisms. Number three is, see, one person cannot reach to everyone. We will have to understand this, and the bigger the organization, bigger this difference will start becoming. So it's very important how a CEO is passing on the messages to its respective immediate leaders, because I feel CEO plays a key role, because the kind of vision, mission, energy he carries, trust me, that gets floated down to the respective team members automatically. So once it's floated correctly to the leaders, it will automatically get floated to the respective team members, even to the lowest level. And I have seen it personally, that how at a person at a level of a systems engineer gets connected to CEO's thoughts and aligns himself just because he floated it down. I think one more thing which is coming on my head, Prem, I'll quickly, make a point of that, is the culture. It's CEO or the people at the leadership who are actually responsible to build that culture in that organization. And culture matters a lot, Prem. Culture matters a lot. To take an organization to the next level, you build a resilient culture in the organization. Somebody comes new, he will automatically get indulged in that resilient culture subconsciously. That's the impact of culture. So I think there's a few pointers, Prem, which through which a CEO can communicate how busy he or she is.
Now, what role do values play in your leadership during times of high uncertainty? And
Value. Mm.
yeah,
Yeah, go on, please.
and it so happens that during uncertainty, we are either in one direction or the other direction, not in the right aligned direction. How do you realign teams to those values while we look at uh, uncertainty playing there?
So, Prem, values plays a very key role. If you'll ask me in one sentence, on one word, I'll say they are the drivers of your journey, of your vehicle, where you exactly, it's the values which will take you to that path, right? And values could be many. It could be integrity, it could be goal oriented, it could be anything. But since you ask me, I take my values in a very resilient leadership kind of a mode. For me, the first and the foremost value is that the empathy, right? That's one thing which is right on the. I mean, I'm sorry, but I'm repeating again. This is hand in hand. The moment you start taking the human factor first, you will start seeing the resilience getting built up automatically. So this human centricity is one, Prem. The another thing on that is the purpose. Once you are able to align, and let me put a small an important example with a very small thing. Leave apart the organizations, leave apart the leaders. For example, we are delivering a project for a client wherein we have to build a new application for the client. So the purpose of that particular project is that, okay, we have to make it an application which is easy, customer friendly, getting delivered on time and with the utmost satisfaction to the customer, where customer gets delighted. This is the one purpose, and this is a perfect definition of purpose, because purpose says when you are doing and thinking and acting more for something else rather than thinking of yours. That's the definition of purpose. So The once you set up this purpose and once you bring the team along with this purpose, achieving the smaller tasks, the bigger tasks, the end goals, everything will start becoming very easy. So the second of the values which I instill in my team and which is a core part of the resilient leadership as well is the purpose frame. And one very important is the adaptability, because sometimes people think that resilience means you have to stay on that path, let whatever storm comes in, whatever the problem comes in, you have to stay in that path. That's not the case. We have to understand resilience means you have to be adaptable, you have to be flexible, right? If there are two ways to reach to that goal, and even after moving certain, traveling certain path in the direction, you feel that okay, I chose the wrong path, it's absolutely okay to come back and choose the right path. It's absolutely okay. And resilience, pushes you to fail early. It's absolutely okay to fail, but fail early. So these are the three core values which I carry along, Prem, and which I train my people on as well. And then also use this at the time of uncertainties, chaos, crisis. It fits everywhere, Prem.
Uh, Pointers very important, but with the time going on, there is lot to ask, but there is short of time, and you want to look at how do you see, or how do you have a use storytelling as a leadership tool to drive the purpose and clarity in teams when they are confused or in the times of confusion.
I love storytelling,
Okay.
Prem, and I understood the impact of business storytelling almost like a decade back. Right? It's not that stories were not there before them; stories were still there. But I think I started understanding the impact of a story on the storytelling or showing and the business storytelling. I think almost a decade back, and since then I have used it. I mean, I must accept I have used it pretty nicely for my team. So storytelling is key, Prem. Uh, See, uh, it has two sides to it, right? It can fill it everywhere. Story can be of a person X who did wonderful. For example, somebody in cricket who did magnificently well, and you put those stories in front of others, and you try to tell the story. Other side is your personal stories, and I feel it's your stories which makes more impact, especially in the leadership environment, in the team setup environments. And I used it. I'll give you an example. I used it when I was working for one of the financials on a banking client. It was the toughest project so far. I'm still saying this is the toughest project I have ever handled so far. It was absolutely a chaos. It was absolutely, I'll not say use the word crisis, but it was somewhat crisis only with the kind of deliverables we had and the timelines which was set up. And my team, when I joined, I mean, there was already a team. So those team members were already perturbed. They were not ready to face anything, and they were low on morale and all those things. And the way I built my resilience, Frame, I'm a person, as I was telling in my introduction, right? I got diagnosed with kidney failure at the very beginning of my, I'll say, when I was very young. So I saw those times when I was in crisis. It was absolute chaos. Wherever I went for support, it was a failure. Financial failures, relationship failures, and then jobs were somewhere surviving. So the point when I told this story to my team, I told them that, I saw the biggest of my setbacks and ordeals in my life, but once I came out of it, I came out as a more confident and more passionate, more purposeful person. So whatever we are seeing in the bank today, we might be seeing it as a verse, but we all are capable to make it happen to the next level. And we don't have to do, big things. Just the small steps will make it happen, like pretty much what I did. So long story short, Prem, storytelling is a very powerful tool. And I sincerely feel, along with all these technologies, right, the resiliencies and sorry, the artificial intelligences, the automations and the other stuff, this is one skill which I feel people should be told and trained on. It's very powerful, and it can be used everywhere. It can be used in teams. It can be used in sales. It can be used in conflict management, effective team management, everywhere. So I strongly advocate for storytelling.
I, let's look at our ancestral stuff when TVs and other things were not there. We were only told stories about kings or other
Yeah,
things, and that really made an impact, saying that your family was like this king's family was there, this is our village history, or this is what we used to look at, and those stories have been there for. And if you really look at every story that is been told is getting converted into a movie. This movie is a story that is being told in a representative manner,
yeah,
right? And I think storytelling, when it comes to leadership, will play a much bigger role when we look at addressing people when they are in confusion states. That is what I take from what you have
yeah.
been saying. In crisis moments, how to avoid trap of micromanagement while still handling, still being on hands on? Because what happens is, I personally have seen people getting into micromanage. Task one you will do, task two you'll do, task three you will be there, I will come and check. This is the kind of things that happen when you get into crisis. How do you look at this point from your view, Sudhir?
This is very interesting, Prem, and this made me think as well. And uh, and this is possibly, there's a very thin line between ownership and trying to own everything, right? Ownership is good, but then you cannot, in especially in crisis. So this is a very good question. Um, so what is the, I mean, whenever this crisis kind of a situation comes in, I think one mistake which most of the leaders do is that they try to control, or they try to own everything. See, it's fine, right? It's a crisis. Being a leader, you need to know everything, that okay, whether this is done, not done, how this has been taken care of. But that does not mean you need to get involved in everything. What is the one thing which is required to be right on top at the time of crisis is the trust. You have to trust your people. They are still the same skilled people who were doing the job for you. You have to trust their skills. You have to trust whatever they have done in the past. So being a leader, it is very important, Prem, at the time of crisis, that you don't try to be unnecessarily resilient. Let me also put it very very clearly. I mean, being a resilient leader does not mean that you try to show resilience and being resilient in every situation. No, it's not needed.
Yeah.
Let the resilience be built on others as well. Show the trust that other person can do that. And since it is a crisis, there will be some spillovers. There will be some negativity around, and that's where you show your leadership how to control those spillovers rather than going to every person and taking statuses. And one very important aspect, since we're talking a lot about human centric and all those things, when these crises happening, you trust your people. This will give them the biggest opportunity to grow, to show their skills. So when you are also building future leaders in crisis, so when the next time it comes, so there's no guarantee that it will not come, it will surely come after some time, right? So once the next time it comes, you should be better placed as a leader, because you have more leaders around you who can handle it better now, right? So it will be a less impacted crisis. So that's the way I feel it. The trust is the most important aspect
I
in
think
crisis,
you
Prem.
made one point when I was discussing in another podcast, and we were speaking is, how do you make future leaders also look at crisis and understand? So we were telling about bringing them onto the board where we discuss these kind of crisis matters,
Hmm.
and from that standpoint we start bringing people and say, now looking at this issue, how do you handle as a team member, and what would you look if you look at from this side? This is my view, so this is your view, so how do we bring a
Yeah.
consensus on this pointer of discussion? So that is one thing that we used to bring as a team that we are supposed to look at. Now, how do we see also when we bring team together, how do you measure resilience in your teams or organizations? Are there KPIs or more intuitive signs that we can look at. And this would be my final pointer that I wanted to ask you, Sudhirji. Before we conclude, I will take the next steps, the next pointers there with you, Sudhirji.
And but I must tell you, Prem, that it's a very interesting and thought provoking question you asked as a last question, because that's something which people feel that, how are you seeing that whether it's a resilience being built, or how are you measuring it or not, right? See, it has both aspects. It has the intuitive aspect as well, and I'll tell about the measuring it as well. But if you see that, okay, how resilient the person is. So the best way to see is, once the pressure situation came, once the crisis came, or once it was a very challenging situation, or even once the things got failed, be it a professional or personal, how did the person react? Stayed? Did he run away? Did he pass on his responsibility to someone else? Or did he take the responsibility to perform? Did he learn something to move on? Was he more prepared to get on to the new setbacks or the challenges which surely will come? Those are more intuitive signs. And very important intuitive sign, Prem, is this: whether that person helped the other person when the crisis was there. Was there a tendency? Because resilience is not about only you, right? It's, if you are in a sinking ship and there is an opportunity to get saved, I think it is a very unfair when you're trying to save only yourself, right? It's okay to be selfish at times, but not always. So to me, if I'm seeing a resilience, as a characteristic, or how resilient my team members is, it will be important to see how resilient was he when the situation arise, but equally important, that how did he help the people around him, or the team members around him, and especially the people who were not able to perform, how he took him along in those crisis situations and made him strong. So that's more intuitive aspect, Prem. But I think on the, if we go for the scaling them, right, there are various tools. I mean, I'm not sure if you're aware of that grit scales
Mm,
and the grit scores, the resilient ratings and the
yeah.
stuff. There are many ways, and the McKinsey also comes up with its resilience scores and, framework, etc. I mean, in all honesty, I have not used it for my team. I
No,
still
I don't
prefer more
think
on the
so.
intuitive
See,
way.
yeah,
Yeah.
I take your point, Sudhirji. I understand the measurement, but when you stand for them, the measurement is done, right? Actually speaking, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. So
absolutely.
you stand for them
Yes.
and you measure what happened. So the postmortem can be done later, but you are standing with
Yeah.
them, and that is more as a resilient pointer that you are saying that this is where I stand, this is what we did, and this is where we were in trouble and we have achieved or overcome that, right? So that's the pointer I think
Yes.
we to
Yes.
take from my view from on that pointer. With this, I think we have done a good number of pointers that we wanted to look at, and I would like to summarize on what we spoke about, Sudhiji. Looking at, we started
Sure.
with balance and empathy side, and urgency leading to pressure in high stake environments. Then we spoke about personal compass and see how decision making is getting affected. Then we spoke about talent intensive sectors. What does resilient leadership look like? And then we looked at failure and approaches to resilience in crisis management today. Mid level managers build resilience without losing human connection with their teams, is what we spoke. Then we spoke in length about AI, its adoption, human centric leadership, especially in crisis side. How does AI being used without losing resilience, and leaders respond before it is too late? And what does a CEO make or be available, visible, accessible, and during that kind of a demand situations, how resilient he is with the team, is what we expect. What role play or values that play in leadership during times of uncertainty is what we spoke about. Then we spoke about storytelling in leadership. We spoke about crisis moments. Then we spoke about how do we measure resilience in the teams or organizations on the KPIs and the initiative signs that we can take, is what we spoke about on a overall strength that we had these pointers to be discussed today, Sudhiji. Any pointers that you would like to take or give before we conclude and say bye for the audience today?
No, I just want to end with this, Prem, that I sincerely feel challenges whenever they come, right? As I told in the beginning itself, they are the best source of the opportunities. But they are also capable to bring the best out of you and something which you yourself are not aware till date. So challenges can bring you something out of yourself that ways as well. So I just want to conclude with this thought, Prem.
Thank you, Sudhiji. I think with this we are at top of the hour, and we would like to say that thank you for joining us. We have streamed this LinkedIn to this stream of the podcast to LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. We hope you found this discussion valuable, and thank you for joining us. Our next episode is going to be the 238th episode on crypto agility, navigating quantum shifts in cybersecurity on the 22nd of April at 6:30 p.m. Looking forward to see you again. Good day and bye. Sudhiji, thank you for being here, and it's been pleasure having you here, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Premji. Thanks, everyone.